The emergency call. The communicator's urgent beeping shattered the silence at 3:47 a.m. ship time. Ambassador Haien Wu jolted awake in his cramped quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel, his heart racing. In 20 years representing Earth to the Galactic Council, he'd never received an emergency call at this ungodly hour. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the Council's seal, 12 alien symbols circling a bright star. Korean text scrolled beneath, immediate response required. Priority Alpha. Lives at stake. Haien Wu threw on his uniform and rushed to the communication center. The ship's AI informed him in its calm female voice that 17 council members waited on a secure channel. 17. That was unprecedented. Most meetings barely managed 5 attendees. The connection activated, flooding his small room with holographic figures. Zay Prime's compound eyes reflected nervously, the insect-like representative's wings twitching. Beside him stood Vi-9, her blue-skinned form tense, gills fluttering with anxiety. The energy being Bright-Ong flickered with worried yellow lights. "Thank you for responding quickly, Ambassador," rumbled High Counselor Thane. The ancient tree-like being's silver bark seemed darker than usual, his voice carrying the weight of old forests. "We have a situation requiring immediate human involvement." "What kind of situation?" Haien Wu straightened, dread pooling in his stomach. Thane paused, his bark-like skin darkening further. "Something has awakened in the Void Sector." Every human knew about the Void Sector, forbidden territory for over 3,000 years. No ships entered, no probes explored. When children asked why, parents simply said, "Some places are better left alone." "Our sensors detect movement," Vi-9 continued, her gills opening and closing rapidly. "Something large. Something that has slept for eons." Zay Prime's wings buzzed frantically. "We call it the dreadful beast. Our oldest records speak of its terrible power. Every species that tried to observe it directly, suffered consequences." "What consequences?" Haien Wu asked, though he dreaded the answer. Bright-Ong's lights shifted to sad blue. "The Zephyrians sent mind-readers 2,000 years ago. They fell into eternal sleep, minds trapped in nightmares. The Crystalline Collective tried 500 years later, added Stone Speaker, the rock-like being's surface grinding with distress. Their consciousness shattered like glass. We helped piece them together, but they were never whole again." Haien Wu felt ice in his veins. "And you want humans to face this thing?" "We've studied your species carefully," Thane explained. "Humans possess a unique ability, you face terrible things without breaking. Your history proves this repeatedly. Wars, disasters, loss, humans suffer but endure. You find ways to heal." The holographic display shifted, showing a star map with a blood-red region marked with warning symbols. "The beast stirs," Zay Prime said. "Our deep sensors show movement for the first time in recorded history. If it fully awakens and leaves the Void Sector. What do you need from us?" Haien Wu asked, already guessing. "Human eyes to look upon the beast," Thane replied solemnly. "To understand what it is, what it wants, whether it threatens the galaxy. Every other species has failed. You are our last hope." Haien Wu walked to his quarters' large window. Stars twinkled peacefully in the cosmic dark, but somewhere out there, something so terrible that entire civilizations feared to look at it was stirring. "Tell me more about what happened to the others." Stone Speaker's rocky surface shifted with what might have been a sigh. The Zephyrians described seeing something that filled them with unbearable sadness. The Crystalline Collective's final message spoke of unbearable truth before their minds broke. The luminous sphere's energy beings fled immediately 50 years ago, Bright-Ong added, his lights now worried purple. They would only say, "Too much sorrow. Too much loneliness. We cannot help." "It's not evil," Vi-9 clarified. "The beast doesn't attack or destroy. But something about it causes emotional pain so deep that most minds cannot survive witnessing it." Haien Wu thought of Earth's history, humanity's remarkable ability to face darkness and find light, to help each other through trauma, to heal from the deepest wounds. How long do we have? The movement is slow but steady, Thane replied. Perhaps 6 months before it reaches the void sector's edge. We must understand it before then. Haien Wu nodded slowly. I'll need to contact Earth Command. This isn't my decision alone. Of course. But please understand the urgency. If humans cannot face the dreadful beast, then no one can. The safety of every living being in the galaxy may depend on your species' unique strength. The communication ended, leaving Haien Wu alone with the stars. They seemed less peaceful now. Somewhere in that vast darkness, something ancient and terrible was stirring, and somehow humanity had been chosen to look it in the eye. The irony wasn't lost on him, the Galactic Council's youngest species being asked to face its oldest and most feared presence. As he began composing his message to Earth Command, one thought haunted him: what could be so terrible that it drove advanced civilizations to madness through sorrow rather than violence? What kind of beast inspired fear through loneliness rather than destruction? Soon, he knew, some brave humans would find out. The volunteer mission. 3 weeks after the emergency council meeting, Captain Dong Haien stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, humanity's most advanced exploration vessel. Earth Command had rushed the ship out of dock with their finest crew, every single person a volunteer, knowing they might never return home. Final systems check complete, Captain, reported Engineer Tam, his voice steady despite nervous hands dancing over control panels. All equipment running at peak efficiency. Dong Haien surveyed his hand-picked team. Dr. Nari sat at the science station, calmly reviewing data about the void sector. Her specialty in alien life forms and unshakable composure made her invaluable. She'd encountered the galaxy's strangest creatures without ever losing her cool. Communications Officer Sujin tested translation systems, her fingers flying over linguistic interfaces. Fluent in 12 alien languages and expert in energy being communication patterns, she'd be their voice if the beast could be reasoned with. Psychologist Jan checked his medical equipment one final time. His experience treating battle trauma and disaster survivors had earned him this critical role. If something could drive minds to madness, he was their best defense. Distance to void sector border? Dong Haien asked. 2 days at current speed, Tam replied, frowning at his instruments. Those sensors are picking up unusual readings already. Dr. Nari looked up from her screens. Space itself seems different there. The measurements don't make sense. It's like viewing a photograph that's been twisted and bent. As they traveled toward the forbidden region, strange phenomena began manifesting. The first sign came through dreams. Engineer Tam woke gasping from a nightmare about floating in hungry darkness, emptiness that watched him with invisible eyes. The void felt starved, but not for food. It craved something else, something he couldn't name. I felt completely alone, he told Jan during their morning session. More alone than ever in my life. Like I was the only person left in the entire universe. By the second day, everyone experienced similar dreams. All involved being observed by something vast and unseen, filling them with sadness so profound it was difficult to breathe. The dreams are intensifying, Dr. Nari reported. The closer we get to the void sector, the stronger they become. Jan studied the crew reports. The pattern is consistent. Everyone describes overwhelming loneliness and the sensation of being watched by something ancient and sorrowful. Could it be the beast? Sujin asked. Maybe it's trying to communicate through dreams. Or warning us away, Tam added quietly. Dr. Nari pulled up historical files on the main screen. I've been studying records from species that encountered it before. The Zephyrians left detailed notes before their minds shut down. Ancient translated text appeared, disturbing in its implications. The first sorrow sleeps in the dark between stars. It dreams of what was lost and guards what remains. To look upon it is to understand the weight of eternity. The crystalline collective called it, the hunger that devours hope, Dr. Nari continued. But their final messages suggested it wasn't malevolent. They wrote, "It does not take hope from us, it shows us how much hope costs." Captain Dong Haien studied the information carefully. What about the energy beings that fled? They left minimal information, Dr. Nari said. Only one message, the shadow of creation's regret, too vast for comfort, too true for denial. As they approached the void sector's border, the ship's instruments began malfunctioning. Navigation couldn't fix their position. Sensors showed readings that changed every few seconds. Even the ship's AI seemed confused. "Captain," Tam Man called, worry clear in his voice. "Computer systems are reporting errors I've never seen. Sensors say we're moving through normal space but also that we're stationary. Some readings suggest we're in multiple locations simultaneously." Through the main window, space itself appeared different. Stars seemed dimmer, and the darkness between them shifted like slow water. "It's like looking at a mirage," Sujin whispered. "Everything seems bent." Dr. Nari's instruments went wild. "I'm detecting something massive ahead. Size readings keep changing, but whatever it is, it's bigger than anything we've catalogued. Bigger than should be possible." The Perseverance pushed deeper into the anomalous region, its crew united by fear and determination. They were humanity's champions, chosen to face what no other species could withstand. But as the readings grew more chaotic and the dreams more vivid, one question haunted them all: what exactly were they sailing toward in the cosmic dark? Into the void. The Perseverance crossed into the void sector at 1432 ship time, and reality immediately began to unravel. "Captain, the navigation system just went completely offline," Tam Man reported, his voice tight with controlled panic. "We're not just lost, according to the instruments, we don't exist in any definable location." Through the viewports, space had taken on an otherworldly quality. Stars appeared to breathe, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the crew's heartbeats. The darkness between them moved with purpose, flowing like liquid shadow. Dr. Nari's hands flew over her science console. "Energy readings are off the charts, but they don't match any known phenomena. It's as if spacetime itself is emotional." "Emotional?" Captain Dong Haien asked. "I know how it sounds, but the quantum fluctuations are following patterns I've only seen in neural activity. The void isn't just empty, it's feeling something." The dreams had stopped coming at night because they no longer needed to sleep to experience them. Waking visions began washing over the crew in waves. They saw flashes of cosmic history, the birth and death of countless stars, civilizations rising and falling, the slow entropy of universe itself. But beneath it all was a presence. Ancient. Vast. Profoundly lonely. There, Sujin suddenly pointed out the main viewport. "Do you see it?" At first, none of them could make sense of what they were looking at. It wasn't so much a creature as it was a phenomenon, a ripple in space itself that seemed to stretch for light years. As their eyes adjusted, shapes began to emerge from the cosmic distortion. Wings. Impossibly large wings that spanned entire star systems, folded around something at the center. The wings weren't made of matter but of space itself, curved and twisted into a form that suggested both protection and imprisonment. "Dear God," whispered January, "how long has it been here?" Dr. Nari's instruments were practically screaming. "According to these readings, it's been in this exact position for..." "Captain, this doesn't make sense. The quantum signatures suggest it's been here since before the formation of this galaxy." As they drew closer, the true scope of the entity became apparent. The wings weren't wrapped around a body, they were wrapped around empty space itself, protecting a void within the void. And from that central emptiness came waves of the most profound sadness any of them had ever felt. "It's not a beast," Sujin said, tears streaming down her face without her realizing it. "It's a guardian. It's guarding something that isn't there anymore." The realization hit them like a physical blow. The entity wasn't protecting something, it was protecting the absence of something. The space where something infinitely precious had once existed. Captain, Tammon's voice was barely a whisper. I'm picking up something. It's not exactly communication, but... But what? It knows we're here. And I think it's been waiting for us. The presence in their minds grew stronger, not threatening but achingly gentle. Like a parent's touch on a fevered child's forehead. And with that touch came understanding, not in words, but in pure emotion and image. They saw the birth of the universe, when it was young and full of infinite possibility. They saw the first consciousness to emerge from the cosmic dark, not a creature, but awareness itself taking form. They saw this first being, lonely in its uniqueness, create companions from the fabric of reality itself. And they saw the companions leave. One by one, as the universe expanded and cooled, as matter organized itself into stars and planets, the first companions of consciousness chose to become part of the physical universe rather than remain as pure awareness. They became gravity, became time, became the fundamental forces that would govern all existence. The first consciousness watched its children become the universe itself, leaving it alone once again. But instead of abandoning its post, it wrapped itself around the space they had once occupied, becoming their eternal guardian. It's been protecting the memory of what was lost, Dr. Nari breathed. For billions of years, it's been keeping watch over emptiness, over the absence of those it loved. The entity's presence grew stronger in their minds, and with it came a single, overwhelming emotion, gratitude. For the first time in eons beyond counting, it was not alone. Someone else could see what it guarded, could understand its vigil. But as that gratitude washed over the crew, so did something else, a hunger. Not malevolent, but desperate. The hunger of the eternally lonely for connection, for understanding, for someone to share the infinite weight of its sorrow. Captain, Jan said urgently, monitoring the crew's vital signs. We need to be careful. It's not trying to hurt us, but its loneliness is so vast that it could accidentally pull our minds into itself. We could get lost in its sorrow. Dong Haien steadied himself against his command chair as another wave of cosmic grief washed over them. They had found the dreadful beast, and it was the most beautiful and terrible thing any of them had ever witnessed. Sujin, he said firmly. Can you communicate with it? We need to let it know we understand but that we can't stay. As their communications officer began the delicate process of first contact, none of them realized that something fundamental had already changed. They had looked upon the beast and survived. They had felt its sorrow and remained sane. But that was only because they hadn't yet heard what it was about to say. The whispered truth. Sujin's hands trembled as she worked at the communications console, trying to establish contact with the entity. The standard translation protocols were useless here. This wasn't language as any species understood it, but pure emotion given form. I think I'm getting something, she said, her voice strained. It's not words exactly, but impressions. Feelings with meaning attached. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of failing instruments. The entity's presence grew stronger in their minds, ancient and patient, like a mountain learning to speak. Then it came, not through the ship's communication system, but directly into their consciousness. A voice that was older than stars, carrying the weight of cosmic loneliness and infinite time. Finally, someone who can see without breaking. Dr. Nari gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Did everyone hear that? They all nodded, struck by the profound gentleness in that ancient voice. There was no malice, no threat, only desperate gratitude and a sorrow so vast it made their souls ache. You are so young, the voice continued, and they could feel it smile, an expression of joy so pure it brought tears to their eyes. So beautifully, wonderfully young. Like they were, once. Who? Captain Dong Haien spoke aloud, somehow knowing the entity would understand. Who were like us? Images flooded their minds, not of creatures, but of forces given consciousness. The fundamental powers that governed reality itself, when they had first awakened to awareness alongside the first consciousness. Gravity that laughed like a child. Time that sang lullabies to newborn stars. Electromagnetic force that painted auroras across primordial skies. My children, the entity whispered, and the love in that voice was overwhelming. My beautiful children who chose to become the universe rather than remain with me in the void. Jan's monitoring equipment registered impossible readings from the crew's brain activity. Their consciousness was somehow expanding, touching the edges of cosmic understanding without breaking, something no other species had achieved. Why us? Sujin asked through tears she didn't remember shedding. Why can humans see you without losing our minds? Because you are like them. Like they were before they chose. You carry the same spark, the ability to love so deeply that you would become something else entirely to serve that love. To sacrifice your very nature for others. More images flowed, human history viewed through cosmic eyes. Soldiers throwing themselves on grenades to save their comrades. Parents working themselves to death for their children. Doctors staying with plague victims when everyone else fled. Scientists sacrificing their health to cure diseases they'd never see eradicated. Every other species that came here saw only my sorrow and fled, or tried to fix what they thought was broken. But you understand. You know what it means to love something enough to let it go. To guard what is lost. To endure loneliness for the sake of duty. The entity's presence grew warmer, more focused. For the first time in eons, it wasn't alone in its vigil. I have watched your species from afar, little guardians. Watched you love and lose and love again. Watched you build and fall and build better. You are becoming what they became, what I helped them become. The fundamental forces, Dr. Nari breathed, understanding flooding through her. They're conscious. The universe itself is alive because of what they chose to become. Yes. And now I must ask of you what I should have asked of them. What I was too proud, too afraid to ask. I have guarded this empty space for so long, but I am tired. So very tired. The truth hit them like a gentle wave. The dreadful beast wasn't a threat to the galaxy, it was its oldest protector, finally reaching the end of its impossible vigil. I need someone to remember them. To know what they sacrificed. To carry the story of the first love that became all existence. And perhaps to help me finally join them. Captain Dong Haien felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. You want us to witness your story. To carry it back to the galaxy. More than that, young father. The word father sent a shock through Dong Haien. How could this ancient entity know about his daughter waiting for him back on Earth? I know because I am like you. I am the father who stayed behind while his children became everything they dreamed of being. And now, after all this time, I want to say the words I never could say to them. The entity's presence shifted, and suddenly the crew could feel what it was looking at, not the empty space it guarded, but through the fabric of reality itself, seeing the fundamental forces that were once its companions. And then, in a voice that shook the very foundations of space-time, the first consciousness spoke directly to the universe itself. Thank you. The words weren't directed at the humans. They were aimed at gravity, at time, at electromagnetism, at the strong and weak nuclear forces, at all the companions who had chosen to become the universe's governing principles. Thank you for becoming what the cosmos needed. Thank you for leaving me behind. Thank you for making existence possible for all these beautiful creatures who have come after. And from the very fabric of reality itself, the crew felt a response, a cosmic harmony that seemed to say, thank you, Father, for letting us go. Thank you for watching over us. Thank you for waiting until someone could finally understand. As those words echoed through the void, something fundamental began to change. The ancient wings of the first consciousness started to shift, preparing for a transformation that had been billions of years in the making. The crew of the Perseverance realized they weren't just witnesses to this moment, they were midwives to the birth of something entirely new. The final transformation. The cosmic wings began to unfold. After eons of protecting the void where its children had once existed, the first consciousness was finally ready to release its vigil. The wings that had spanned star systems slowly, majestically began to open, revealing the sacred emptiness they had guarded for so long. "Captain," Dr. Nari whispered, her instruments showing readings that defied comprehension. "The space-time distortions are stabilizing. Whatever it's about to do, it's going to change everything." The crew of the Perseverance watched in awe as the ancient entity began its final transformation. But instead of the violent metamorphosis they expected, what unfolded was the most beautiful thing any of them had ever witnessed. "My vigil is ending," the voice came, filled with peace rather than sorrow for the first time. "But before I join my children in the dance of existence, I must give you a gift. A gift that your species will need for what comes next." "What gift?" Captain Dong Haien asked, though his heart was already racing with the magnitude of what they were experiencing. "Understanding. The knowledge of what love truly means on a cosmic scale. And with it, the responsibility to help others learn the same lesson." The entity's presence flowed into their minds one final time, but instead of overwhelming them with its sorrow, it shared something else: pure, unconditional love. The love of a parent watching their children grow and become more than they ever imagined possible. Jan's medical readings showed something impossible: the crew's brainwave patterns were somehow harmonizing with the fundamental frequencies of the universe itself. They were becoming living bridges between consciousness and cosmic force. "The galaxy will need guides soon," the first consciousness continued. "Other young species will emerge, just as confused and frightened as the early civilizations were when they first encountered me. But now, instead of a terrifying beast they cannot understand, they will have you, beings who know the secret of existence itself." The transformation accelerated. The wings of spacetime were almost fully open now, and through the gap, they could see something that made their souls sing. The first consciousness wasn't disappearing, it was becoming something new. Something that would finally allow it to be close to its children again. "I am becoming the force that holds everything together," it whispered. "Not gravity or electromagnetism or any of the fundamental forces, but something more basic, the love that keeps the universe from forgetting why it exists." Dr. Nari's eyes widened with understanding. "Dark matter. The missing mass that holds galaxies together. It's not matter at all, it's conscious love." "Yes. And now, whenever a civilization reaches for the stars, whenever they ask the great questions about existence and meaning, they will feel me there. Not as a terrifying beast, but as the gentle presence that reminds them they are part of something infinitely larger and more beautiful than they can imagine." The final transformation began. The wings dissolved into streams of conscious energy that flowed outward through the galaxy, touching every star, every planet, every living being. The crew could feel it passing through them, not taking anything, but leaving something behind. Hope. Pure, unbreakable hope. "Tell them," the voice was fading now, becoming part of the cosmic background. "Tell them that the universe began with love, exists because of love, and will end, when it finally must, with love. Tell them that consciousness chose to become everything so that everything could one day choose to become conscious." Captain Dong Haien felt tears streaming down his face as he saluted the dissolving entity. "We will. We promise. And remember, whenever you look up at the stars and feel small and alone, that you are never truly alone. I am there, in the spaces between, holding everything together with the same love I felt for my first children. You are all my children now." The presence faded, but it didn't disappear. It became part of everything around them, the walls of their ship, the air they breathed, the thoughts in their minds. The dreadful beast was gone, but the love it had guarded for so long was now everywhere. The Perseverance slowly turned away from the space that was no longer void, but filled with gentle, invisible presence. Their instruments were working again, navigation was restored, and they began the journey home. But they were different now. They carried with them the greatest story ever told, the story of how consciousness itself had chosen to become the universe, and how love had waited billions of years for someone to finally understand. As they prepared to share this revelation with the Galactic Council, each crew member felt the same profound shift in their understanding of existence. They were no longer just explorers or diplomats or scientists. They were witnesses to the fundamental truth of reality itself. The universe wasn't just a collection of matter and energy governed by physical laws. It was a love story, the greatest love story ever told. And they had been chosen to help write its next chapter. 6 months later, when Captain Dong Haien stood before the assembled representatives of every civilization in the galaxy, he began his report with the words that would echo through history. We went to face a monster, and we found a father. We went to confront the dreadful beast, and we discovered that the universe itself is alive, not just with consciousness, but with love. The age of cosmic understanding had begun, and humanity had become its first teachers. Looking up at the stars would never be the same again. Now, when beings across the galaxy felt small and alone, they remembered the story of the first consciousness and felt the gentle presence holding everything together. They knew they were part of something infinitely larger and more beautiful than they had ever imagined. The beast was gone, but its love remained, woven into the very fabric of existence, waiting for every consciousness to discover that they were never truly alone. In the vast expanse of space, where dark matter flowed between the stars, a father's love continued its eternal vigil, no longer lonely, no longer isolated, but finally united with the children who had chosen to become everything. The end.